Welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is why I disagree, and the topic will become known just now. Today I'm on the warpath, and because I'm sick and tired of being bashed. I always hear about the Germans and the Germans and the Germans and Second World War and the Germans, and you know that you should know by now that I'm a German, and I'm not starting to take it personally. Of course, bashing doesn't stop. Now, unfortunately, as you also know, I'm a pro-Russian supporter, and I watch a lot of pro-Russian commentators. And that's precisely the reason why I'm doing this. Now, this is probably going to be, I'm going to make today 3 videos, or maybe more. But this is the reason for it. Getting sick and tired of being bashed. In any case, so my first enemy is Andrei Martyanov. I don't know how you pronounce it. That is how it is being spelled. That is how I pronounce it. There was one comment in one of my videos when I talked about Andrei, and it seems to me the guy is very sensitive. But then I also replied, if you are such sensitive that you do not want to watch my video because I do not pronounce names correctly, then my videos are not for you. That's also right. Got no problem with that. In any case, the video I'm referring to was a video that was published by Andrei on Sunday. I think this is the 4th of December. I will leave a link to that video. Now, unfortunately, Andrei, yes, he has written some books on American weapons and so on. He's supposed to have a degree in military affairs. He was in the Russian Navy, and he immigrated to America, I believe, in the early 90s from Russia. But if you watch his videos, and I watch a lot of them, it's always a constant bashing of other people's work. It's always nobody knows anything, and if you have followed my videos, I have talked about this before. And he talks and nobody knows anything. They are all underqualified. They don't know nothing. They don't know how war goes. Basically, putting people down. He actually doesn't bring anything to the conversation. He doesn't bring anything really to the whole scenario in Russia and the Ukrainian SMO. All he does is 80% of his videos are bashing. And then if you read some of his articles, he continues in those articles. And unfortunately, he's one of the people that has now transgressed my red line, and that's why I'm making this video again. And in the first part of the video, he talks about British propaganda, and that the British has started the propaganda war, and it started in World War I. And he doesn't know whether the Germans and so on in the First World War were bad people and so on, but maybe they were. They were at least not the same as in World War II, implying that the Germans were worse in World War II than in World War I. And, well, luckily he didn't agree with the assessment that the Germans basically raped and pillaged and killed in Brussels and so on during the First World War. At least he admitted that. But in any case, all bullshit. So let me tell him he's talking bullshit and doesn't know what he's talking about. But then he refers to British tabloids. Not a newspaper, tabloids. And if you have never read a tabloid in Britain or in America, those are not newspapers, they are papers that are, in the modern world, you would call clickbait. They make outrageous statements in order to draw your eyes, in order to buy it. They have the biggest gossips, stories, and weird stuff, and talked about aliens and anything they can get off their hand. All sensational type of headlines, but very little bit of news. So most of them is white. And then he gets upset when they certain publishing certain of these, the propaganda they publish in these tabloids. Andrei, those things are not reliable sources of information. And you should know by now that those tabloids talk a lot of bullshit. It is their core business principle. I don't understand why he has to go on like that. Then he goes and talks about a guy that writes an article on the website of 1945. That's the website called 1945. Initially I thought, oh, well, he was a writer from 1945, but no, the website is called 1945. And he says, yes, why the US Navy never built any titanium submarines. And then he goes on and describes the whole thing about the Russian titanium submarine that was, I think, built and developed in the 1962s and so on, and came in production early 70s. In any case, these were all Russian-built submarines, built from titanium mostly, or the hull was built from that, which gave them a significant weight advantage compared to other submarines. And actually, this guy, being a political and affairs study, has a PhD in political affairs, and etc. Now he knows nothing about military things, and Andrei bashes him again. Now, how can this guy actually talk about these stuff, and he makes so many mistakes in the article, and etc. And then I read actually the article, and the point here doesn't go about the Lyra. The Russian submarine is called Project 705, and it was called the Lyra. And the Russians built 7 of them, plan to build 8 of them. But I will get to just to that one. In any case, so this guy was talking mainly about the titanium hulls. And he goes on, and everything is kosher. The titanium issue, in the context of his article, makes all sense. It is very superficially written, so it doesn't give you that much detail. And by not giving you that much detail, it doesn't allow him to make too many mistakes. But he once makes one mistake. And that is that the titanium was the reason why the Russian submarine was so high maneuverable, so fast speed. But it was also maneuverable. And in a certain sense, he's right. But then Andrei goes on and on and on about this whole story. Now, I'm an engineer. What do? Go on YouTube. Go on Google. Google the Lyra, Project 705. And there's a nice Wikipedia article about it. Not too long. Gives you the core specifications of the submarine. Gives you the core description of what it happens. Nothing in seriously detailed, but more than enough for you to understand the missiles and a little bit of its history and what the concepts were. But Andrei goes and raves about the submarine that was so advanced and so on. And the US could never build anything like that because they never had the titanium technology. Well, Andrei, the Russians also didn't have the titanium technology. They developed it. And when they develop it, in that development process, they built the submarine. But before they started with this project, they also didn't have the titanium technology. So if the US wanted to build a titanium submarine, they could have developed the technology, they could have developed the welding techniques, and they could have built one. It's not outside their reach. I mean, they built the atomic bomb, didn't they? And the Russians stole the plans from the atomic bomb, isn't it? Well, it wasn't stolen, it was given to them. So what's the point? In any case, there were a number of features of this type of the submarine. But as an engineer, If you are pushing the envelope of technology, you have create a lot of problems that had to be resolved. If you are driving material to the limits of their capability, you will experience problems. That is how engineering works. And the submarine, the Lyra submarine, had their certain drawbacks, and they had their technical problems. It was not the master weapon. It was just a new, a good technology implementation. That is what it was. So in any case, just to intersect. So aluminium is not stronger than steel, by the way. It is stronger per steel per weight. So if you have a sheet of metal made from steel, it has to be, say, 2 millimeters thick, and it weighs 500 grams, or say a kilogram. Doesn't matter. Now, if you make the same thing from titanium, that same thickness will weigh more or less half of it, maybe even less. I don't know. I don't know. Got to check all the densities and stuff like that. But also, you know, the stronger a metal gets, and I'm talking about steel and titanium and aluminium or whatever, the stronger it gets, the less elongation it can happen. So it's not like rubber. It's like when you pull it, when it's like very low forces that you can easily stretch it, and you can stretch it a long time before it breaks. But if you increase the strength of the material by various means, by various add-ons and thermal annealing and but I don't know the English words now. Sorry, I don't know the English words now. Cold working and all this other stuff. You can actually increase the strength, and then it will break not at 10 millimeter, but it will break at 5 millimeter. And the harder and the stronger it gets, the smaller it can elongate before it actually breaks. And in this case for aluminium, case for titanium as well, and also for steel. And you can get steel that have a tensile strength up to 2,400 megapascal, where the titanium, the current titanium alloys can go up to half of that, less than half of that. So it's not that titanium is stronger than steel. You get steel that is a lot stronger than titanium. But it all depends on application and the manufacturing process that you have to undergo, and the cold working that you do on it, and heat treatment. That's heat treatments. That's the one I was missing. Heat treatments that the steel can undergo, the compositions of the add-ons, percentages of carbon inside. There's so many facts. I don't want to give you a metallurgical explanation on it. But there's a lot of things that influence, and you have playoffs, one property against the other property. You have to find a balance and stuff like that. So building something from titanium is not a rocket science. Well, it is rockets. No, not rocket science. It's quite advanced and so on. But it's not an unsurmountable problem. If you want, it's just implementation of technology. So what the titanium has caused the submarine is that it was a lot lighter than a steel-based one. That is all. And when it comes lighter in mass, this thing can travel about constant speed of 41 knots underwater. This is incredible speed. And then it can accelerate from 0 to 41 knots within 1 minute. And the reason for that was the titanium light hull. That is what it creates, apart from the second one I will just get to. And if you wanted to reverse it 180 degree, like going and reverse the whole submarine, you can obtain that reversal within 40 seconds. So from full speed, 41 knots forwards, to 41, well, not 41 knots, and probably tells 0, can stop maybe, and then move a little bit back. So that's also within 40 seconds. That's not a reverse speed of 41 knots. That's impossible. This is what they think can achieve. And at that stage, you can outrun any existing torpedo that the US had. And that's all that is actually. And then the second benefit, or the second item that was unique, was its nuclear reactor. Now, nuclear reactors are nuclear reactors are nuclear reactors, but they are not all the same. They have different construction, different principles, but at the end of the day, the core principle is here. You have the nuclear fission material that heats up, and it has to be cooled down. That heat is absorbed by the surrounding fluid in which these rods are positioned in. In this fluid transfers the heat to a water or a steam, a water cooling system, which heats up the water. And then this system then will heat up another water to steam, and then that steam will drive a turbine. That is how it works, all of them, in principle. The specifics differ. And what the Russians have done is they have put a metal liquid, they created the metal liquid around the uranium rods, and that made the heat transfer much more efficient between the rods and the first cooling system, which had an improvement in terms of what how hot you can let the uranium rods get. Now, also the uranium rods were sort of encapsulated in ceramics, and there's a technology. I'm not going to go into reactor designs. I'm not even interested in that. You can look up if you want to. But the core principle was that it was a liquid bismuth lead mixture. And this one solidifies at, I think, about 145 degrees. So if it gets below 145 degrees Celsius, it gets solid, and the reactor stops working, and you can throw that reactor away. It's a disposable thing. It becomes a dud. So it was important that these fluid had to be kept about 145. And in fact, of the 7 that was built, 4 of them had their bismuth lead liquid, metal liquid, solidify, and then those 4 submarines were shelved or scrapped. That is what happened. Now, also with these type of things, they become critical. They are high temperature. Maintenance was very, very difficult to do on these reactors, but they had this huge advantage. They were small and light in construction. So this allowed the Russians to build a very smaller submarine. And when it is smaller, it has less frictions as it travels down through the water. Water is much more denser than air, and it has its own fluid dynamic problems that go with that. And the third, so it was complicated reactors, but it was 55 megawatt reactors. And these things then created steam. It's probably superheated steam, and the superheated steam drove a turbine, which was about, I think, 30 kilowatt, 30,000, so it's 30 megawatt. So it's about 20% of the reactor's capability. But then the reactor also drove other stuff as well, like the electrical systems and so on, so on, so on, so on. And then that turbine then drove the propeller. Or whatever coupling they had or gearbox they had. And like I said, those are details that probably are not available, but I don't care much about that. And that was a submarine, and it was fast. And what did the British and the Americans do? They built the torpedoes that can go faster than this submarine, and so you could destroy them. But before the US could destroy it, these things destroyed themselves. And they were hunter submarines. They were mostly stationed inside ports. And if there ever would have been a threat, they would have immediately gone out at high speed and intercept that fleet and then try to destroy it. One of the biggest problems of the disadvantage was that it was very noisy. And why was it very noisy? Well, I don't know, but I can think about some things. Firstly, the turbine. I don't know how noisy that one was. But secondly, and most importantly, is that the propeller. Like I said, it is water, it's not air. And the biggest problem of any propeller is cavitation. And if I now have to put on, the propeller doesn't turn, and I put it into full force, full power forward, that propeller will cavitate and makes a huge noise. And if you want to hear, if you ever watch the Second World War movie about submarines, then everything is switched off. People don't even talk because they might be hurt. So the noise of the propeller would have made a big issue. But not even that. The Americans stated that it made such a noise that the operational speed of this submarine was a lot lower compared to what's comparable to their own submarines. Why? Because if the submarine wanted to detect another fleet, they couldn't hear it because of the noise that the Russian submarine was making. So they couldn't detect them. So they had to slow down in order to detect enemy fleets. That is called the operational speed, which was on par with the American versions. It's all on Wikipedia. It's not difficult to understand this, but well, the writer of this article only wanted to make a point about the titanium. He didn't want to discuss the whole Russian fleet, submarine fleet, and all that technology. So in that context, well, we can allow him that mistake, but Andrei, no. Had to bash him. And then he goes on about the new unveiled B-21 bomber. The stealth bomber and so on. And, well, stealth, what a useless thing. And it only has standoff weapons inside. And what does a standoff weapon mean? And then he talks about delivery platforms and goes on about, and this is a piece of junk, and high technology and unnecessary technology, and stealth is redundant, and the S-400 system can shoot it down. And again, bad-mouthing the Americans. Don't know what they are doing. They're all idiots. Well, firstly, he's actually the idiot. For the simple reason is that each army has their own military doctrines and making their own method of making wars. The one will fight, say a boxer, one will fight with the left fist forward, and the other one will fight with the right fist forward. And that is how they decided to do it. And it's the same between big powers and so on, like the Russians. They're concentrating on air defenses and artillery, and the Americans are having a different type of method of waging war, which is technology-based. Which one is better? We don't know, because they haven't fought it. But doesn't mean you have to reject the other one or downplay it. A bomb is a bomb, a tank is a tank. An aircraft is an aircraft. And they have specific purposes, capabilities, limitations, and it depends on how you deploy them and how you use that. And each army will develop its own doctrine to use that weapon effectively. And that's all that is all about. But Andrei doesn't talk about stealth. So let me tell you about stealth. Stealth is, in a certain sense, good for a certain purpose. It is futuristic in that. And in future warfare, stealth will become an issue. You cannot say that the S-400 can shoot down a stealth aircraft. I'm not sure if there's any proof in that. They might allege to be doing it, they might claim it to be doing it, but can it shoot it really down? No, has never done it before. Stealth is a play of a game. From an engineering point, it's a playing of one property against another property. You have to balance the weaknesses against the strength for the purpose that you envisage for it. Normal, standard, civil radar systems can pick up a stealth fighter or aircraft, no problem. But it's wideband. But you cannot target it with that type of radar. You need a narrow band radar to pinpoint that that aircraft. And if you look at the S-300 and S-400 systems, they have a huge radar. And those missiles are guided by their radar. And if the radar cannot pinpoint that aircraft accurately, then that missile will miss its target. And it's a lot more difficult. Those stealth materials have been selected in order to evade military radars. That is what it's targeting. Targeting radars is the main enemy of stealth aircrafts. And that is what you have to prove. And I don't know, and I think that Andrei also doesn't know. But if now we're talking about standard weapons, you go a certain distance to your enemy where you know there's no air defenses, then you let go, you drop off cruise missiles or distance missiles, then it flies to its target and explodes. That's the whole principle of these aircraft. Well, yes, in certain circumstances. But air defenses are there to protect important assets. That is what air defenses do. They cannot protect your whole country. They cannot defend the whole front line, because you never have enough of these things, even if they are interlinked and integrated. Just remember, it's always a radius that it covers. And it's like the arc. The arc has to overlap in order to cover the whole front. Imagine now you have to have a whole road. And look at Ukraine. You have 10,000, you have 1,000 long front line, 1,000 kilometers, and 25, and each radar can have a radius of 45, so an arc of maybe 20 kilometers. Yeah, say about 20 kilometers. So how many anti-air defense systems do you need in order to cover the whole front line? And do you have enough? That means everyone is operational. So there is limitation to everything. And then again, bombers are usually accompanied by fighter aircrafts. Now, I'm not sure, can a fighter aircraft shoot down a missile? A missile like S-300 or S-400? I'm not sure what the speed is, but I'm sure an air-to-air missile is more or less the same speed. Well, maybe, I don't know. But the biggest question is that if stealth is such bad technology and wasteful technology, then why is the Russians building a stealth fighter? And why are the Chinese building a stealth fighter? Maybe you should answer that question. Yes, come on. Don't have your bread buttered on both sides. In any case, that's my story for today. I wish Andrei will stop talking in own bullshit and start contributing to the narrative, do proper investigations, and come back with a better narrative. Tell us what is happening. And stop bashing other people, and stop bashing the German people. You know nothing. In any case, my story for today. If you want, subscribe to the channel, spread the word, tell your friends, and until next time, cheers.